Okay, so one of the things that was interesting in the film, The Red Sea Miracle Part 2, was the testimony of Eric Lemke. And I had heard about Eric. I think Aaron mentioned Eric, and so I'm going to play a clip about that because those guys were searching for this. Well, they were searching, and that's when this idea came that there was a wheel down there that they had. So let's play that clip, and we'll talk about it afterwards. Okay? From the beginning of my involvement, I had heard about Eric Lemke finding a spoked wheel on the sea floor. His discovery came 9 years after Wyatt had found his golden wheel. I was cautious about the report of Eric's find. He too had waited over 2 decades until he found someone he felt he could trust with his story. This would be his first public retelling of the events. Explain to me what happened one day when you were diving.
Sure. That was, like I mentioned before, the spring of 1997. There were 4 of us on that trip. It was myself, Ron Wyatt, Dr. Muller, and an individual that he brought along by the name of Rory. Towards the end of the dive, we came back up, did our safety stop at 15 feet to decompress. And once we came to the surface, there was only 3 of us there. Myself, Ron, and Leonard. So I said, hey, where's Rory? And you could see his bubbles off in the distance, trailing deeper where it started to drop off. I said, listen, if one of us doesn't go back down, something's wrong, he's not gonna make it. So I submerged and I got down to about 60 to 80 feet and my eye caught something. It was circular in nature and you could clearly see the circumference of a round object, a rim.
Did you see any spokes?
Definitely, yeah. There was a hub in the center that was clearly visible, and it was roughly about, I would say, describe it as a grapefruit, very smooth in nature, almost like a grapefruit cut in half, like a hub.
And had you ever seen a chariot wheel before?
Oh yes, yeah, I've seen chariot wheels in the Cairo Museum. I don't know if they're ceremonial in nature, but this one was definitely a little bit thicker. So it was like a dirty bronze color, very dark in nature. And this was the only time that I had seen anything definitive, period, that resembled an ancient wheel.
So what happened to then Rory? Is he swimming off?
So, yeah, I realized at that time, my air was getting low, and I'm looking off in the distance, and he's still swimming in a straight line, going out deeper. And I knew at that time that I couldn't catch him with the limited air I had left. And I literally just start motioning like this underwater. All of a sudden, he stops, he spun around, we caught our eyes. I said, look at me, in the goggles, and I motioned him, come here. I pointed like this. I was right over the top of it, trying not to move. And when his eyes saw it, and he looked up, they got really big in the goggles.
I lost my octopus, my mouthpiece. I was so surprised when I saw it and so excited.
His first reaction was to go down to it and grab it, like he was trying to pull it off the bottom.
I could see clearly 5 of the 6 spokes, as well as the rim, at least 75% of it.
The silt was really stirred up.
I was trying to lift up the chariot wheel, but the problem was it was too heavy. Now I was really out of air.
He gave the dreaded, I'm out of air.
And you're 90 feet below?
Yes, approximately 95 feet below the surface. So I grabbed his vest and held onto it, and it inflated my BC, my buoyancy compensator, with as much air as I could, and literally just shot straight to the surface like a cork without initiating a safety stop at 15 feet to decompress.
Yep.
We surfaced just a little bit too quickly, and as a result of that, there was some kind of bends that I got.
I mean, that's a very dangerous thing, but it's
Yes.
all you can do, right? Because you're going to run out of oil.
Well, yeah, the first reaction is, I got to get to the top. Well, we popped to the surface, and my first reaction was, Ron, we've got a wheel. I'm not moving from this spot. And Ron, remember, he said, well, you may not be moving, but the current's moving you, fella. And sure enough, we were drifting.
Because some people would say, well, why in the world didn't you have a camera?
On that last dive, I wasn't carrying the camera, Ron was.
You were carrying the light.
I had the light, correct.
Searching for this evidence was one reason I traveled to Nuweiba Beach with Leonard Moeller back in 2002. Yet, after all these years, no one has been able to relocate the wheel. All we have are the eyewitness accounts.
All right. So, I know, Aaron, you've been searching for that wheel with trying to get, trying to get back to it. I've heard this for such a long time. So, tell us just a little bit about that, both you and Ross and Andrew as well. So.
Yeah, we just questioned and questioned Eric over and over again, and went back several times for a few years. Because like Ross has said before, you can scan like that whole area, that whole coastline, and it's like looking for a needle in a haystack. If you know there's a wheel at a certain place and you've got a close enough kind of direction as to where it is, you may as well just devote a lot of time to it. So we did a lot of time and resources. We would dive off a boat more often than not, because we were told it was at around about 28 meters. So we did search that area. We tried to do it fairly methodically. There was a time when Leonard Muller was there, and we had like a team, probably about 10 divers or something like that. We would take certain sections and dive on it. We did that for probably about a week. And I've dived with different people, with Ross and Peter Elmer, you showed earlier, and so forth. And I've still never seen it.
Yeah. Yeah, Dr. Carter, is it hard to find your way back to certain places? I mean, that was, how far out was it? It was like hundreds of yards? It was 400, 500 yards out, or what?
So Ross, you'll have to help me here. We used that, we called it the fourth buoy as a marker, didn't we? And then it was something like, I think Eric must have told us, you go north 50 meters or 70 meters. My memory's pretty bad. And then it would be around about there at 28 meters deep. It was something like that, wasn't it? So how far from the shore would you say that was?
Just trying to recall, but yes, there's a couple hundred meters. I can't remember, but
I think you guys were diving off the boat, and the boat was out probably at least 500 meters to a kilometer out, because you dived around the shore, but once you took the boat out and you were diving at that sort of 30 to 40 meters, you would have been at least 500 meters to a kilometer offshore, because it was quite a zoom on the camera to pick you up.
Yeah, that sounds about right, I think.
You know, every time I hear the story, the dive safety officer in me is screaming. There's nothing about this account that was safe. I mean, the guy got bent. He ran out of air at 90 feet. I mean, this is never supposed to happen. So you had two new divers in a high adrenaline situation, possibly nitrogen narcosis happening, and they're excited about something and nearly killed themselves. This is not the type of situation where you get accurate reporting of detailed scientific information, shall we say. And so, yeah, maybe they found something. Maybe it was wheel-like. Maybe it was a modern wheel, which is much more likely from a ship or something like that. Or maybe the guy was narked out of his mind because of nitrogen in his blood. And then he gets bent after that. I mean, this is not supposed to happen. And it's scary. I mean, I've had so many scientific diving classes where we went over safety, and those guys broke every rule.
Yeah.
So I don't know what to make of it, honestly. We have two people, new divers, who made an anecdotal report, and they're very excited about it, and we can't confirm it. And that's one of the big issues with a lot of things. If you can't confirm it, what can you do with it?
Actually, Eric was a Eric was more the diver. And
the guy who went back down.
Yeah, he was the responsible one. He was the one that said,
well, he saved that other guy's life.
Yeah, Eric saved his life.
Twice. Yeah, he would have run out of air at 90 feet with no buddy.
Yeah. And
yet he went down and found him. Oh, man.
Yeah. So Eric is the one who I think was the much more trained, and he was more physically strong to basically do that, because he was he was also, I think they call him a hotshot. He used to fight firefights, be a firefighter, in forest areas. So he was quite physically, he had a lot of strength, put it that way. So, okay, guys, we're going to just a few. You want to say something, Aaron?
So he was a fire jumper, but he said he was so he was at the surface and he was low on air, but he wasn't out of air or in any kind of danger or anything like that. And so when Rory called him down, he went down there perfectly calmly, and then he observed the wheel perfectly calmly. He said he had a hold of it as well. He also tried to tug on it to get it out.
Okay.
And then when Rory was tugging, he didn't give that account. And then when Rory was tugging and tugging on it, he's a much less fit guy, and so he used up all his air, and they weren't checking their air at that time. And so then something else happened. Actually, Rory grabbed Eric's mouthpiece out of his mouth. His oxygen.
He panicked.
He just grabbed it, took it himself because he was completely out of air. And that's when all the panic and the bends and everything kicked in. But they had observed it under fairly calm conditions before.
Yeah. Well, I think Eric was the one who saved their lives at the, basically towards the end there, because he knew what to do. That's when he pushed Rory back, I believe, and got his reserve, valve, and then shot up. So, yeah, that was a pretty interesting scenario.